Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on whenever you're watching this video. My name is Taiwo Ogunwumi. I'm going to take you a brief about myself. I had a bachelor degree in geography from the University of Ibadan. Also, I'm currently doing my master's in environmental risk and human security at the United Nations University, Bonn, Germany. I'm also a geospatial consultant with several international humanitarian organizations, including the UN. And one of the most important part for today is the fact that I'm a founder of a risk reduction initiative called Geohazard Risk Mapping Initiative in Nigeria. I would also like to introduce you to the Sendal Framework for Disaster Reduction, which was a framework that has 7 targets, 4 priorities. And most importantly, this is one of the key targets that every country have come together to see how they can achieve by 2030. But for this particular presentation, my emphasis is going to be on 2 of the 7 targets. And the first one is how we can reduce the damage of critical infrastructures, and at the same time, how to ensure that there is access and availability of early warning information at different parts of the community. I'm also going to use this medium to also introduce you to the Sustainable Development Goal, in case you are not aware of. Probably if you have seen it before, also it's also a good time that we emphasize this. And one of the key most important parts is the Sustainable Development Goal 11 and Goal 13. 11 emphasizing on how we can ensure that cities are sustainable and safe, and 13 emphasizing on climate action. That is, how can we take urgent action, to respond to the effect of climate and its major impacts. One of the major problems that climate change has been causing is natural hazard, right? And that one of it is flooding. Flooding has been one of the major issues in Nigeria. Nigeria is a country in West Africa, right? And it's one of the countries that's that contains a lot of people, right? Very highly populated. So they experience flood every year, each and every year. And one of the most devastating parts is that flood is now much more, so from 2020 to move on to 2021, and even currently this year. But most importantly, we're going to be looking at 2022 and 2020 and 2021 flooding, right? And it's evident that flooding devastates so many. It affects the population, their means of livelihood, destroy critical infrastructures, at the same time affect people who are already vulnerable, people who live in campsites already, and they are also being flooded in addition. So, and that's what led to the funding of this initiative called Geohazard Risk Mapping Initiative. And what does the initiative do? The major objective is that we try to deploy youth who are skilled at the use of geospatial information technology, right, to see how we can identify communities or infrastructures and population that are at risk of flood. And in doing this, we create flood maps, that are accessible to the emergency institution or disaster response stakeholder, those who can take urgent action, those who can improve preparedness. They're also available to the community themselves too, because of course, yes, the most time, communities members are the one that they are always the first responder to flood emergencies. So that's what the initiative does precisely, bringing you together who have a good technical skills and see how we can create flood maps, which are accessible to the public and to national emergency institutions. And today we decided to select one of the projects, right, that we did, and that was the project titled Improving Flood Preparedness at Communities in Nigeria through the provision of flood early warning maps. And diving in, like I mentioned earlier, the initiative brings together youth. And part of what we did is the fact that we try to ensure that we have youth across the country, right? So if you are saying that we want to solve, reduce the risk of flooding across, Nigeria, it's also important that we have youth who are from this country, who are living within the communities, who are living within the states, because this will also definitely help our major project impact. So we have youth across, you can see the map, there's a spatial distribution in them, right? We also have it, to also we try as much as possible to also balance the gender. So we have both male and female. So part of the the result of mapping for this project was the creation of a paper, printed paper maps of over 11 local government areas, showing areas that are susceptible to flood, yes, at community level. Of course, yes, the national government, the national emergency are doing a lot in terms of creating, flood susceptibility map, but most of them are not really at community scale. So it's mostly at state scales, or at national scales, right? So, but this come down to the county level or local government area, as we call it in Nigeria, showing, different places and their level of susceptibility to flood. This particular, paper map are then being shared with national institutions, for them to make a better informed decision on how they can improve the people's preparedness. In addition to this, right, because the paper map goes to the emergency institution, we also look at how we can also create an interactive maps that can be accessible to the community members themselves, that can be accessible to the public, that somebody can go and probably search for his area. You see from these maps here, you see there's a search bar where you can search for your houses, search for your markets, and be able to understand what is the level to, to the upcoming flood or future flood risk. When people are better aware with flood, they can easily, be well prepared. And this can go a long way to reduce risk. And if you look at these two key things I've showed you earlier, you can see that it's addressing the target G, right? Increasing the availability and access to early warning system, to early warning information, which is very, very important, right? And also, if you look at the fourth priority of the Sendai Framework, which is central on enhancing disaster preparedness for effective responses, these maps are contributing towards this particular quota. Aside the creation of maps, paper maps and interactive maps, we also engage in post-disaster mapping, right? And this involves mapping of buildings, mapping of infrastructures. We tend to notice a gap in the fact that most of buildings, most of markets, and so many critical infrastructures are not mapped. There's no data record for all these things. So it becomes so difficult to, to assess flood impact. It becomes very difficult to assess disaster loss. And that's what leads us to see also, we see that, there are so many places that are not maps, there's few building blueprints. And in doing this, even when flood occur, we cannot quantify the impact. We cannot quantify the number of people that the emergency can respond to. Yeah, it becomes quite difficult. So as you can see, there's little buildings, right? This made us to host events, right? We hosted an event that brings together youth across the world. This was during the pandemic. We never allowed the pandemic to hold us down. This could have been a physical event. This could have been an event whereby, we collectively work from one community to another, right? But in this case, we decided to have people across different parts of the country who can support in filling this gap, right? In improving infrastructural data set, right? And settlement data set. So we come together and hosted an event where we have over 55 mappers who are from 15 different countries. They're participants in this event, and we're able to successfully map 11,000 buildings, you see. So you see now the same place I showed you earlier in the last slide that have just a small proportion of buildings that set now have much more, which make it more easy to quantify and know how many buildings are at risk, how many infrastructure are at risk, which type of road might be affected by predicted floods. And the same question somebody will ask me that, why is the excess of mapping building footprint? What would this do? Yes, it will help in disaster response. It will also contribute to post-relief planning, right? That is when disaster occur, the people there'll be much room to create supplies for them, to understand which buildings are affected. At the same time, looking at this map now, you can see that it also, help you to analyze impact, right? And to also quantify a risk level. Part of this is also contributing towards building a sustainable city, because this data set, right, it will reside on the cloud. So it's much more also easy to do other urban and community planning. And then if we also look at it in a general scale, right, it also further contributes to improving evacuation planning, right? So if we want to know if there's flood, right, where do we evacuate the people? Yes, where's the best place to site evacuation zone? How can we do search and rescue in this particular place? All these building informations are very, very important. The land use plan department can also use this to make their good environmental planning policies and framework, which is very, very, very crucial. So you see, I will not say more to make it to understand that this is contributing to the Sustainable Development Goal 11, which emphasizes on sustainable cities and community, and then to make people to be more safe, right? Settlement to be inclusively safe from the destruction of natural hazards like floods. In addition to this, we also look at how can we contribute to the gathering of disaster loss information, right? That is one of the things, the gap that we realize is the fact that the record of floods, the record of people that are affected by floods there's a gap in that. It's mostly not available. And part of what the Sendai Framework emphasizes the fact that there should be records of disaster loss that countries are experiencing, right? It's very easy to be able to quantify if there's decrease or increase in number of people affected. And that's why we also develop a flood reporting tool that is accessible to the community, right? A mobile app that they can always use to report floods. That is, if flood happen in your area, you can take a picture of it, and then you can also say, oh, well, how many people, are being impacted, how many farmland were lost. You get this. This also supports geo information, right? So it collects the geographic information of wherever they are recording this information from. So this does not end here. It sits on our database, the initiative database, and we also ensure that we transfer the information, right, to the emergency institutions so that they can also use this for their own personal record keeping. So the key take home that I want to share is the fact that youth can contribute to the achievement of the Sendai framework by investing their time using this future platform, to fill the gap in data, fill the gap in infrastructures, also support the mapping of risk. So I advise every youth in DRL to never relent, continue, pushing forward. Yes, a part of the initiative plan is that we want to see how we can also expand to other West African countries to partner with them, countries like Ghana and other ones, to see how we can as well replicate the same process or also improve more on flood preparedness in Nigeria within the year of 2022 and even furthermore. I want to believe quite well that you have been able to gain one or two things here today, and I want to say thank you so much.